Is this our new theme song? Hold on. Let him keep singing. Keep going.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm editing that, and that's our new outro. Like
What,
all of it. Yeah.
Linus and Lucy?
Yes, but
Hey,
it's
I don't think it's gonna fly. I'm pretty sure it's copyrighted somewhere.
it's not copyrighted if you are doing it and I'm talking during it.
I don't think I'm considered to be a orchestral rendition of it.
Yeah, but you weren't doing lyrics. You were just making noises.
Yeah,
that's a song.
I actually didn't recognize it. That's how bad it was.
That's one of my favorite songs, actually. Linus and Lucy. I don't know why.
Is it called Linus and Lucy?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was the actual name of it. Like, I know it as the piano song from Charlie Brown.
Well, yeah, it's called Linus and Lucy.
Which,
by Vince Garwood. Yeah.
Well, since we're talking about names, what's our names?
I'm Grumpy Dungeon Master Chris. You're Grumpy Master Jay, and the other guy in the back room, the hobo, the homeless guy, that's Grumpy Dungeon Master Bruce the Beer Bandit.
That's right, Bickety Bam! I'm here.
Yes.
Yeah, the homeless guy is just here now.
Yeah.
So.
No, I have a home, and it's in the golem's grasp of Paizo.
Yeah, that's fair. So is mine at the moment. I've dropped multiple hundreds of dollars on Paizo stuff in the past 2 weeks.
Peanuts are under copyright and will continue to be copyrighted for decades to come.
Well, of course it is. Yeah. That song it's not, 101 years old or something before it goes into public domain?
Yeah, Mickey Mouse will become public domain before Peanuts does.
No, Mickey Mouse will never become public domain.
Yeah, I don't think it can.
Ever.
Disney would buy out all of the senators to change the copyright laws. Make sure that
they already
doesn't happen.
have numerous times. There's some things that they can't. There's some things that they can't keep under copyright. Like Winnie the Pooh, for example. Like Winnie the Pooh is now public domain. You can do anything you want with Winnie the Pooh. But God help you if your Pooh Bear is wearing a red shirt.
Yep.
You will be sued into the ground.
Although I have seen a Pooh Bear with a red shirt without permission. So
that was just blood.
Have you seen? I think it's called Winnie the Pooh's, I think the title's The Honey Pot or something like that. Hang on, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, the horror movie that's coming out.
We talked about it on Drunk with Buds.
Did you now? Which is your other podcast that everybody should listen to if you like drinking and people talking about sports and horror movies.
Yeah.
We don't do a lot of sports talk, but we talk about just about everything else, including entertainment.
Include Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey?
Yep. We did talk about that.
Which, at the moment, I'll probably go see over the Dungeons & Dragons movie.
No, boo.
Yeah, boo me all you want.
I will. I'm going to see the D&D movie. I don't give a shit about their OGL. I give a shit about the OGL, but that's not going to stop me from seeing that fucking movie.
So I'm still on the fence about the D&D movie. So in case anyone who's just walking into this, there's currently a huge explosion in the D&D community, this drama between the D&D community and WotC /Hasbro, where they have decided to basically revoke what's called the OGL 1.0A. And in doing so, they're going to tighten their death grip upon the D&D content that can and will be published in the far future. And there was such a backlash to this and a mass exodus of D&D Beyond subscriptions, reportedly over 40,000, that they had to walk back and create a new OGL draft, quote unquote, called the OGL 1.2. Now, the 1.1, the one that caused all the stir, was called a draft, but here's the thing. I'm a tech writer by trade. If you have a 1.0, and then the next release is going to come out, that's a 1.1. You don't just skip over 1.1 and go straight to 1.2, because they weren't calling the 1.1 a draft, or they were calling 1.1 a draft, but at the same time, they skipped over it now and moving to 1.2.
Well, like we talked about last week, they called it 1.1, but they sent it out to all these other companies and creators to sign.
Yeah, it wasn't a draft in the slightest.
You don't send contracts out if it's a draft.
This is their next attempt, and their next attempt came out late last week. And overall, when you read it, there's a lot of good legalese that's throughout the entire document, but it's still absolutely terrible. The only good thing that they did state, and this is good with quotations, is that they want to move the D&D core rules into Creative Commons, which is interesting. So, from all the drama and things that I've gone through and read, you can't copyright rules to a game. And I think we mentioned this last podcast. So, you can copy the Monopoly podcast, the Monopoly rules verbatim, but as long as you don't use the same images and tokens and change the terminology a little bit, you're perfectly fine. So moving the D&D core rules into the Creative Commons doesn't mean anything. It's an empty gesture to people that actually understands what that means. All the classes and spells and things that make up what was covered in the OGL for anyone to use is still going to be restricted heavily. And so you kind of go through and you read the OGL 1.2. You can go to D&D Beyond's website and read it yourself. I'm not going to read through it. All I'm going to say is that there's weird legalese, and they do use the word irrevocable, which is a big thing that they wanted Wizards to say. But then in the parentheses after the word irrevocable, they change the definition of what irrevocable means and kind of give themselves the power to still revoke you and the license whenever they want.
People love changing definitions. Love it.
It's just full of this bullshit. And what's worse is when you get down to the virtual tabletop policy that they tagged onto it. And this is where I am now personally affected by these OGL changes. So they want to control the VTT space. And I'll get into this a little bit later on the podcast, but essentially they want to restrict people and control people who use VTTs to play tabletop games. And one of the ways they wanted to do that was to say that you cannot use any of the official D&D art as tokens within any VTT without their explicit permission, and that you signed over your allegiance to this OGL 1.2. And you can't use any type of animated spell effects in any capacity whatsoever. Now, if you watched my D&D live play game, Waterdeep Fiendish Summer, this Saturday, and I had like 12 people watching. It was actually quite a for the average, or I guess the median of people that watch D&D content, having over 5 is amazing, and I was at 12. So I was very happy. So thank you to everyone that came out and watched that. I had a portal that was animated because that's how the cultists were getting into Waterdeep, through this portal. And because I had this wibbly wobbly arcane magics for this portal, according to this VTT policy, I was in direct violation of it and could be sued by WotC directly for having animated effects on my VTT. So WotC, you can just go fuck yourselves, honestly. I have zero faith in you now.
Well,
like you're just
Christopher. Christopher, it's just very simple. The time of the wizard is done. It's time for the age of the orc.
Well, the thing is that this language in the document is so overreaching that they're trying to own that VTT space, and what we'll talk about later is they're actually trying to kill VTTs that are out there. And I have a lot of things to talk about, and I actually have quotes from people from inside Wizards, because there's a good video that was published a little bit ago with WotC sources, and they'll kind of all make sense later. So I'm just very upset by all this. I'm at a point where I've lost a lot of faith in the company as a whole with the Magic 30 debacle. Even though it didn't affect me, I still lost faith. And then this OGL 1.1 came out, losing even more faith. And then now they're attacking me streaming my game on Twitch.
They don't want you streaming your game on Twitch. They want people playing under AIDMs.
Well, those a bit of confusion. I'll clear that up here in a little bit. So I want to take a real quick aside before I get into all the ranty, sad, depressing stuff.
This is going to be a long podcast of you just ranting, and we're going to let you go because honestly, a lot of what's going on affects you and not me or Bruce. So,
well, Waples, have you not seen what the ORC is yet?
He knows about the ORC.
I've seen what the ORC is, but okay, so let me do my side first, and I'll come back to the ORC. Okay. So my side first is I do want to give a shout out to all of the players that come out and play on my D&D stream on Saturday nights. You all are fantastic. Scruffy is amazing because he is moderating my Twitch channel for me all the time, even when we're playing normal games, and he helps me out quite a bit. Shelly, every day we finish the game, Shelly is just like awestruck with just everything that happens in the story. And Mike and Dimitri and Chandler, they're just great players. Great having them there. It's a lot of fun banter, and I really think that the actual like show that we're putting on, in a sense, is really taking off when we're kind of at our best right now. And I really do want to employ anyone that is listening to this to come out and watch the thing. I do catch ups, so everyone should at least know what's kind of going on at the beginning of every stream. So don't feel like you can't just jump in and watch the next episode. You can just come in and I'll catch you up.
He does a fantastic job. I have watched your stuff and been a part of it.
Yeah. So, Orc. So what they're calling the open.
Actually, I don't know what the acronym stands for.
I'll find it. Open RPG. Hi, Blaze. The Open RPG Creative License. Okay.
There you go.
So, Orc is a cool idea. All right. So, back in the 2000s, there were a number of different gaming systems. All right. And the problem is that each gaming system had their own small community, but they weren't growing. They were kind of like there and always they were always surely just shrinking. So in the 2000s, when they released the OGL, they kind of basically put this universal stamp on, here are all the D&D rules. Anyone can use it to make third-party content. And that didn't matter much at the time, but what that did is that gave everyone this universal basis of using the D&D 3.0 rules, the SRD, was it 3 at the time, to make their own games and their own third-party content. And this is what eventually spun off into Cobalt Press and Paizo and a bunch of other systems. So when the 2010 hit, 10? Yeah, whatever. When 4th edition hit, and everybody hated it, and Wizards dropped the OGL, went to the GSL, and created the SRD 4.0, and everyone hated 4th editions for various reasons, and they all kind of went back to the OGL 1.0A and said, you know what? I'm going to make Pathfinder. I'm going to make my own 3.5 edition type game and create this boom of third-party people working under the same rule set to move forward. And that was a huge success. And while D&D is still alive and kicking today, part of that comes to the fact that the community was able to basically homogenize, that's not the right word, able to come together under the OGL 1.0A and kind of use the same but different rule set for all their games. And so when 5e hit, and everyone now is jumping back board 5e, you've now have this extreme tidal wave of 5th edition content out there. You know, Pathfinder has their own version of 5e with Pathfinder 2e.
No, Pathfinder 2 it's still much more related to 3rd edition.
Whichever, it's still all covered under 1.0a.
Yeah.
Cobalt Press makes a bunch of third-party content. MCDM makes a bunch of third-party content. Chris Metzen and War Chief Gaming make their own set. The guys that run Dragonlance, they came out with their own set that's coming out here soon. Lord of the Rings has their own 5e.
Lord of the Rings has an edition with edition of D&D for every edition, pretty much.
Almost. but they're coming out with their own edition here soon. So everyone could basically unify under the 1.0A rules and come out with a similar rule set, but different with our spin on it, kind of gaming franchise. And that's the problem with Orc. With Orc, you have 1,500 plus companies all unifying to pledge to basically put their rule set under the open RPG creative license. But it's not one rule set. It's going to be thousands upon thousands of rule sets. So unless they shrink down and say, hey, this is what the rule set is going to be under Orc, which doesn't look like what they're going to do. I mean, nothing really has come out, but it seems that everyone's going to have their own rule set. Cobalt Press is making theirs. The Fate system still going to have the Fate system. Paizo's still going to go ahead with their new rule set. Hackmaster's coming out with 6E. So it's all like different rule sets across the board. You're just going to flip back around to the way it was in the 2000s, before the 2000s, where you're going to have all these small communities, and they're not going to be able to grow. They're just going to be able to leech off each other for a little bit and then start dying out. So unless the Orc has one solid rule set, everyone can go, okay, we'll work off of this and give our own spin to it.
You're missing the
then we'll be
point.
fine.
You're missing the point of the ORC. So the point of the ORC is nothing more than an intended slap in the face of WotC. They don't care if we'll use Paizo specifically because they are the big competitor to what D&D is, but they don't particularly care if all these other companies make things under the Paizo rule set. That's not their intention. They're putting it out there so if people want to do it, they can, and they don't ever have to worry about a lawsuit. Whereas with WotC, apparently you always have to worry about a lawsuit now going forward. So if I wanted to just go out and start writing up content for Paizo, as long as I'm not touching on any of their copyrighted creatures or characters, it's not ever going to be a problem. If I want to stream it, if I want to make animated GIFs on whatever platform, they don't care. And that's that is the point of the Orc.
Fine. That's fine. If that's what the intent of the Orc is, great. You just basically made it a safer community for everybody, but you're not creating a platform where people can grow.
Yeah, but that safer platform is what the 1.0 was originally. That's what it was always intended to be. And
it was by Ryan's own words, it was an attempt to unify the tabletop role-playing game communities.
Yeah, but it didn't
unify
them.
I disagree that they can't grow. I feel like, how Eberron became a world for D&D through a contest. Well, maybe now Paizo under the Orc or even Cobalt, whoever joins it, if there's some, people like Jay or even yourself able to make things, and you're gonna have a better chance of getting scooped up and seeing your product become something.
What's going to happen is what's kind of already happening with the popularity of 5e. If I go to Synergy, my local game store, and I look at their tabletop RPG self, they have a big section with D&D. They have a smaller but large section for Paizo stuff, and then a bunch of third-party stuff everywhere. Okay, there's so much third-party stuff that you just kind of get lost in just the mash of what's there.
That's always been the case.
But even with talking with the owner, he wanted to expand out to some third-party stuff, and I gave him some names of some major third-party titles, and he got those. They're still sitting there. But
that's not what I was talking. I was talking more like if you put out something, and under the ORC using Pathfinder rules, blah blah blah, or whatever, and the guys at Pathfinder notice you, and they sign you to make like stuff for them.
But that's what my point is that only the Paizo Pathfinder community is going to be able to use it, and then that community is probably going to be pretty large and last the longest. But there's a bunch of others, like I think there's one called like Dungeon Master Creative Club or something like that. Someone else that signed on to the ORC.
There's a lot of them. Yeah,
there's a lot of them. There's tons of them. So that 1,500 list, even that, this weird fourth party, fifth party content creator. Yeah, they might be able to make something. Yeah, I'm not going to get sued for making something under their system, but it's slowly going to tick away. And like, okay, so here's even a better example. So one thing I'm going to talk about a little bit later in the podcast is a game called Iron Sworn. Have you guys heard of it?
Iron what?
Iron Sworn.
Iron Sworn?
Yeah,
No,
I
dude.
heard
Okay,
about it today.
there are thousands upon thousands of games out there. No, of course I haven't
Right.
heard of most of them.
Right, exactly. So even if they are in the org, okay, and I start making Iron Sworn related content, I'm only making it for that small group of people. And eventually that group is just going to dwindle out. It's going to have some core people who really like it and never will move. All right. But it's not going to matter. It doesn't matter that they joined the org.
Yeah,
Because
see that, and that's what I'm trying to get through to you. It isn't about making money. That is not the point of the orc. The orc is not about growing the community. The orc is about just saying, if you want to make stuff for our system, you go right ahead. That is the point.
If it's not about growing the community and solidifying the community, then it's basically an empty gesture, in my opinion.
Well, I mean that's in your opinion. I think it's an important gesture because it literally, like I said, it slaps WotC in the face. It tells them, "Hey, you guys have fucked up. We're not gonna be you. We will never be you." It's like when Metallica went mainstream. Like it's just this. It's this thing that you grew up loving, aka D&D. It was always outside of the norm, and then it became the norm, and then everybody stopped caring about it. It still has millions upon millions of people who play it. It's always going to be the most popular one out there, but it's not going to ever be the best one out there.
In that same vein, I understand. If it's just a slap in the face, okay, and they're basically it's Paizo with a crowd of people, and they're walking up to WotC and they're taking off their nice white velvet glove and they're slapping WotC across the face and they're chucking it to the ground and going, "We sir are going to duel because blah."
I don't even think they're trying to duel. It's just they
when
wedge.
WotC pulls out the bazooka gun and goes, "This is what we got," and he pulls out that flintlock pistol and he runs because he can't stand up to the bazooka. It's
where's WotC getting this bazooka anymore?
I think it's more akin to the bully on the playground, and the one kid stands up to him, and then all the kids stand up to him, and the bully walks away.
But that's not what happens. That's what happens in the Sandlot. That doesn't happen in reality.
I mean, that is what happened.
No, it hasn't happened. I mean, we're in the actual slap that is contact in the face.
But remember,
and everyone's heard the sound.
Some people will say that they won, but in reality, we both won.
That bully is about to deck that little kid, and he's about to go crying to the teacher.
6th edition?
Yeah, D and done. That's what it's being called.
That's the bazooka?
The bazooka, unfortunately, is just the presence of the money machine that's behind WotC, and I'll get to that a little bit later too. So all this whole drama, wherever anyone stands to the side of it, is a part of this massive push from Hasbro, and it's called the Hasbro 2.0 initiative, where they want to basically double their stock price and double their value within the next 5 years. Well, that 5 years has now become the next decade because of other external issues.
Yeah, they're not doubling it in 5 years, but that's not necessarily because of this. That's just because of.
Yeah. And there's a lot of talk that behind the scenes, the company was taking federal government money because of COVID, and that was padding the bottom line.
Yep. That's what I was telling you last week on the podcast.
Yeah, and that's fine. I get that. But still, Hasbro's a company that they want to make money. Whatever. That's all companies, capitalism, America, yay.
Yeah, you have to make money as a company, otherwise you go out of business.
So, with D&D 1, under the executive pressure from Cynthia Williams, the VP of WotC, and it's headed by a man named Chris Cao, CAO. He is the VP of D&D Digital. All right. His job, as he has basically said it himself, he is the self-appointed mastermind of the digital move of D&D into this digital space. Okay. Now, a little bit of reference for who Chris Cow is. He he led the launch of the DC Universe Online MMO. He was executive producer at Cigna. They make a lot of mobile games. A couple big ones are like Farmville, Words with Friends. They got a Game of Thrones license in there, and a bunch of other games. And he's also executive producer at Direwolf Digital. And Direwolf Digital, that company, I think that's the one he was at last before he came over here to WotC. The entire company is focused on taking board games and turning them into video games. That's the entire purpose of that company. And that company's got a lot of really cool video games of board games like Root and Wings of Glory, the Game of Thrones board game, digital edition, Munchkin, Dune even. There's a lot, and they have a lot of in their portfolio. So that's what his experience is. His experience is massive multiplayer microtransactions games and taking board games and making them video games. Okay, and that's the guy who is running WotC, the D&D digital side, and pretty much pushing all of this out to everybody. The head of D&D digital is a guy named Dale Stutzman. He is an avid D&D player, and he's just part of the team that's helping make the digital tools that I'll discuss a little bit later. And then there's also Kyle Brink, and he's the public face for D&D Digital. He's the guy that put out the OGL 1.2, and he's been answering questions and frequently asked questions and doing all stuff like that. So in all this, Dale and Kyle, they're both D&D people. They play D&D, and they just want to turn D&D into a digital game. All right, they're just the grunts working there. And I think their parts are probably in the right place. For Chris Cow, I don't like him right now. I don't know anything about him personally or professionally, just what's been reported, and I can't speak for that. But I can speak for this. My personal opinion is if you're pushing a product and trying to work a product and you do not use that product, I don't trust you. So if this guy has avidly never played Magic and he's never played D&D, and yet he's in charge of Magic Arena, and he's in charge of this big push from D&D into the digital space, then I don't trust anything he does.
How could you? He doesn't know the first thing about any of this.
Yeah. And so one of the things is there's a video from D&D Shorts where he kind of like gave a recap of all the stuff that he got, all the data, all the emails and stuff, and he posted it all in this really nice 10-minute video. I have it linked in our Discord. You can watch it yourself. And I have a couple screenshots from his video where he basically shows what he received from senior wizard executives and wizard employees. And this quote it says, Chris Cow is from a gaming background. Almost every meeting with him includes him talking about this at some point. He doesn't play D&D because, according to him, he doesn't need to play it to understand what the community wants. He believes his experience with MMO video games and mobile games is enough, and it's all the same anyways. So I really think that this guy has a vast disconnect between what D&D is and what people want from D&D.
Yeah, that's obvious.
It sounds like fourth edition again.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're gonna make it more like a video game, which people didn't want.
And like I can see like I played Magic Arena quite a bit, and I feel like the system, the game, the backbone of what Magic Arena is just amazing.
I like Arena too.
Yeah, Arena's great.
I wish they offered more. I don't like that you lose your cards, and they built in now they're doing historic and so you get to hang on your cards longer, but
you don't lose the cards. They still follow the same rotation. There is modes that use older cards, but yeah, you're right. It does. I mean, it's the same with buying them physically. Yeah, I do honestly think playing Magic Arena is the same as playing Magic physically. You get to keep it as long as the Magic Arena stays running.
The one thing that they failed with Magic Arena horribly on is not realizing how big Commander is, and not allowing you to play Commander on Arena.
And there's no modern either.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're getting there, but they had to find a way to monetize it without over taxing people.
Well, but MTG Go does it.
That's a different platform though, and that game is far. the
Arena's
interface.
the best. It's smooth.
Yeah.
It plays very
Yeah,
easily.
you're right, but if the janky one can do all the cards and you get to keep them,
Well,
Oh,
you
they-
could, like I say, you would still keep them in arena. It just your avenues of playing with them are fewer, but it does come around. Like I haven't played arena in about a year, but when I was playing it, I was still able to use my old cards because I was building goblin decks and using all my cards, using slithers and all the cards that I had there in certain modes. Usually the weekly challenge modes are like build a deck to beat this guy. And you're like, all right, well, here's a sliver queen and all my slivers and I win. So
yeah, but in the tournaments and stuff like that, there's
well, yeah,
just
they focus on
standard and
standard.
Yeah, but
and
that's
then that's
based
all.
on standard. Whatever's in
Yeah.
rotation in standard is what's going to be in rotation in
But
standard on
but
arena.
that's all you got. I mean,
Yeah.
they're just adding. I think they're adding historic, but it's not even true historic. Like they don't have all the sets that.
Anthology, I
Exactly.
believe, is what they
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
couldn't make it historic because arena wasn't out at the point that I don't know what the first set in historic is.
Kaladesh.
Because arena was out with Kaladesh, wasn't it?
Yes,
Yeah,
it
that's what
was.
I'm saying.
Yes.
The first set in arena was Kaladesh.
Yeah, okay, but historic goes back further than that.
Yeah.
So those cards just aren't in there. They could add them, but they haven't done that.
They have added anthology packs, which include cards from previous packs in the past, like Slithers, for example.
Mhm.
And if you buy those anthology dumps, you have those cards and you can play them in the historic setting that's on there. So like they are adding things out, but they're making you pay for it slowly but surely.
I mean, I understand them wanting to make some money on it.
Yeah,
I get it.
and I don't fault them for that. I don't fault them with
I don't fault them that,
Yeah.
but not having the modes to allow you to play the cards that you can't not play anymore
Yeah,
as often.
they need to fix that.
Yeah. There's always the open queues, but then it's just a random crapshoot with who you're going to get. So on arena and monetizing it, like I said, I'm fine with that. That makes sense. But like when they introduced alchemy to Magic Arena, that's when I stopped playing Magic Arena, and I'll never go back to Magic Arena because of alchemy.
What the fuck is alchemy?
I'll explain. This is now the Magic the Gathering podcast.
Well, it's all tied to WotC and what they're doing.
This happened under Chris Cal's reign. Alchemy is modified cards to have them quote unquote balance better, so you can play a more balanced meta. So if you buy, let's say, Brothers War, and you get Ursa, and you get to put him together, and he's an awesome planeswalker, and let's say he has this broken ability that the second he hits the field, you lose the game instantly. Well, Alchemy steps in and says, you know what? We're going to change Ursa. So he doesn't automatically win the moment he hits the board. It takes him a turn to get ready. And you have to pay us or hope you open this in our specific Brothers War alchemy packs. And hope you get those cards.
That's not how Magic works. That's not how the game is designed.
So what they did is they split their community straight down half. And now you have people who play alchemy and people who don't. Like there's some card in not Kaladesh, but Kaldheim that's like I get to take an extra turn, I get to create 2 birds, and Odin's amazing. I hate the card. I lost every time I hit the board.
Yeah, that was a powerful card during that. That block.
Well, guess what? That card in alchemy is extremely nerfed and it's worthless. So there's 2 different Magic the Gathering games going on there, and you got to pay for both of them if you want to play both of them. So that's like the type of monetization that they took just a step too far, and I feel a lot of that's going to happen with D&D in the future. When we can talk about the tabletop a little bit later.
Oh yeah, you're not wrong because when they print a book, whatever is written in that book, whatever's in that class, that's what's in that class. And sure, they can put out an errata or an FAQ later on, but the DM doesn't have to go along with that. But if you're doing it online, they can just retroactively change anything.
Yeah.
And I am not a fan of that. I really hate when companies do that. I buy DVDs, I buy CDs, I buy shit like that of things that I love intentionally, because if I find the version, find them online on Disney Plus or whatever, they can remove them, they can change them. And D&D can absolutely do that going forward on their D&D Beyond.
Yeah, well, keep the I like to buy the books part in your little quiver there. All right, so Chris Cow, he sees gamers as one homogenous group overall. What Magic players and D&D players both the same. I
mean,
can't
he's
really
wrong,
disagree.
but yeah.
He's wrong, but it's not that he's wrong. He's just out of line.
Yeah, Magic players and D&D players do not always get along at all.
He's out of line, but he's not wrong. The quote from the video is that D&D is not a video game, and turning it into one would cause its financial model that he wants to make it not work. So, but that's what he's doing. And there was also rumors and comments from this video stated in conversations that this guy had that this guy hates D&D Beyond. He was working on his own product through WotC with the Dan Stoltzman to basically develop their own in-house D&D Beyond, and weren't even aware that D&D Beyond was purchased by WotC until after the purchase happened. And then they tried just to sink it 100%. But they failed, obviously. They may succeed now because everyone's leaving D&D Beyond.
Wanted to sink it, you can just turn it off.
Right, that's true. They can do that now. So there's a lot of this conversation with the OGL 1.2 and the VTT stuff. The executives at Hasbro are reportedly saying that they want to kill Foundry, Hero Forge, Roll20, and any other rivals in the VTT space because their product, which they're calling D&D Sandbox, that's the in-house name that they're, or Sandcastle, that's the in-house name that they're working with. They want everyone to use that and only that to play tabletop games and under the one D&D banner. So that's why there's so harsh limitations in the VTT space and the OGL 1.2, including no spell animations and no token art. But again, I'll get back to the token art and spell animations a little bit later. Their plan is to use the Unreal 5 engine to build a VTT known as D&D Sandcastle internally, to have it have numerous in-app purchases, and part of this, there's also a fee for the VTT and D&D Beyond. So you have to pay for both. And part of that is removing homebrew. And now a little bit of that was redacted by the D&D Beyond Twitter, saying that no, we're still going to have homebrew. But then again, if the VTT is going to be separate from D&D Beyond, then they could not allow homebrew in the VTT and only official content in the VTT, while D&D Beyond could still, quote unquote, have the homebrew. And so another quote from the thing is they want to monetize the VTT. They said, think tile sets, virtual miniatures, apparel, armor, weapons, and spell customizations. In addition to cosmetics and customization, they'd have tailor-made adventures designed for the new virtual tabletop that have scenario or encounter-based DM assistance, which is likely where they referred to it in other leagues as an AI DM. So they don't want to replace the DM, all in all, because the DM is someone they can get money from. So, but they want to have DM assisted encounters to run the kind of game, so the DM still has to pay for all that stuff on his end, and the players have to pay for all the cool customization stuff on their end. You know, and if people want to buy and pay for that virtual stuff, then that's on them and fine. But
yeah, I don't care about that.
Yeah, but trying to restrict and sync Foundry or DM Hub, or by the way, DM Hub, if you haven't looked at it yet,
never heard of it.
Check it out. It's amazing. I may actually swap over to it as my VTT of choice. Trying to sync Foundry because you want everyone to come here and then pay you for it is just stupid. The VTT you get is overreaching. It's not specific enough, and it's just too generic. And another quote from the WotC insiders. You're going to get pushed to buy cosmetics for your characters, attacks, spells, abilities. All of those animations will have microtransactions, and it's also going to be a subscription-based source. The highest tier, which gets you regular content drops that you can plug in and play for free, will be $30 a month. Now, D&D Beyond said that we're not going to charge $30 a month, but they're just talking about the VTT here. So the
Right.
VTT could cost $30 a month. The D&D Beyond subscription, which Chris Cow said, the Master Tier, which is the one I had, is too cheap. He wants to increase the price on that.
At $30 a month, good fucking luck to them not failing horribly.
Yeah.
Most players cannot afford that.
Is that per player or is that per DM?
Player.
Yeah, they would fail. They would shut down if they were charging $30 a month because people. I'm not going to say some people won't pay that, but I know a lot of gamers. Most of us are cheap.
Yeah.
Most of us aren't going to do that. I'd rather spend my $30 and buy a book, buy some minis, real minis, not online minis.
Yeah. You're trying to compete with Foundry, which is $30 one time only, and everyone can use it. Yeah. Good luck.
Yep.
So that's why they're going so hard with this OGL 1.2 is because they can restrict VTTs as a whole. They're trying to monopolize a whole new
Right, which
industry.
yeah, they're trying to become a monopoly in that little subsection of the internet, and if they succeed, then it's going to be awful. More likely, if they manage to even try this, they are going to either fail to put everybody else out, or they're going to get sued into oblivion.
Yeah. A lot of this is like, let's say, World of Warcraft. Like, let's assume that EverQuest basically came out with something so restrictive like this and so ironclad that every massive multiplayer RPG in the future had to basically abide by EverQuest rules and give them money, or you can't succeed. And we want to have Warcraft, the DC one, or any other MMO. And the whole idea of playing games in a massive multiplayer idea would just have died. The whole way we play video games now would have just been changed drastically. And they're trying to control it, and I don't even know if that's legal, but they're still trying to.
Well, we know for sure it's not legal. That is what is called monopolization. That isn't legal, but it tends to be restricted by the government, who a lot of times lets that shit go, as we have seen. That's why there's like, 2 media companies in the entire world who own everything, and so forth. So I'm not. It's not legal, but it doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
But if it gets all restrictive like that, where they kick out all the other things, I think that you'll see a big move back to tabletop.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah. So all this isn't a bad.
Or people would just play it on Discord or some other thing like that.
Yeah. So all this is the background, the push forward from WotC Hasbro to make D&D become $1 billion franchise. Right now, they're currently making $150 million a year, and that's from not even D&D Beyond, but just for the books and other merchandising and licensing.
D&D Beyond, they're not making nearly that anymore.
Well, like I said, they just purchased D&D Beyond within the past year. Let's see, like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So that factor is not even, that 150 million is not even factoring in.
That's fair.
D&D Beyond money.
Having lost what, 4 million a month or so in subscriptions.
Yeah. The goal is to be a $500 million brand by the beginning of 2028.
Yeah.
And what's standing in the way of them, they believe what's standing in the way of them is the OGL 1.0A. And now another quote from a Wizard Insider. It says, WotC Hasbro are failing to be able to legally remove third-party pirate sites such as 5e Tools, as the OGL provides too much flexibility. And this is seen as a loss of revenue as D&D fans are able to access content for free. I'll get back to that in a second. They are really worried about the proliferation of mobile apps for D&D, and the current OGL allows for them. Rather than making sure the official version of the OGL is the best for the community, it's really there to provide a basis upon which to take legal action against others, including VTTs. Now, pirating is going to happen no matter what, and they have a right. They have a right as a company to take down 5e Tools or try to. You can't stop pirates from being pirates. Yo ho, fiddly dee, pirate life for me.
Yeah, we found that out in the late 90s, early 2000s, the whole Napster debacle, and guess what? It was not the music companies that won.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, me as a stable adult, I'm going to pay for the things that I like. I have the financial stability to do that. If you don't and you want to pirate and get your stuff, that's on you and your own set of morals. I'm not going to get in there. But you are taking money from the greedy executives.
I mean, they might not be able to buy their child another island.
So that's between you and your own set of morals. I'm not going to admit to anything. So if you go to 5e Tools and use that because you don't have any other resources to, you don't have the capability to buy $60 books, then again, that's on you. A lot of people have a lot of RPGs out there for free for you to try if purchasing one is not available to you.
Hell, Paizo has all of their shit online for free.
And they're fine with it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, they know that someone who wants to support their brand is going to support their brand. And someone who doesn't isn't. And that person who isn't going to support the brand is the same one who's just pirating movies and pirating music and pirating everything. And I think that's a very small picture, really, personally, versus their vast amount of income that they actually lose.
Yeah, obviously it is.
Would you download a car? Fuck yes, we would. It's called 3D printing. Get with the times.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. What is it? Games Workshop, they're having all sorts of issues because of the 3D printing thing. So.
Yeah, but like even then I see people who take 3D printing and use it to fix their minis. You know, like there's one guy, I really wish I could remember his YouTube channel, who rescues miniatures. Oh yeah, it's called eBay Miniature Rescues.
Okay.
And he buys really crappy printed or painted miniatures or incomplete miniatures from eBay, takes them in, washes them up, fixes them, puts them together correctly, 3D prints the missing parts, or if he has them in his bed box, puts those on them, and he's done. And a lot of times he doesn't have the right 3D print for it, so like sometimes the demon wings are a little bit higher or bigger or whatever, and he just makes do. So like he uses 3D printing the way I would, like as to like accessorize the ones that I paid for.
Yeah, well, especially with Warhammer, because modifying minis has always been a part of that hobby.
Right. And then he paints it up and then he puts it on eBay for the exact price that he bought it. Okay. And then he basically auctions it off and gives all the proceeds to a charity each week. So really great guy, really good into the hobby, very smart, fun to watch. Give him a look. eBay Miniature Rescues on YouTube. So like even Games Workshop has places that they can improve with their 3D printing. Like you can't just look at a new technology and go, no, that's ours, or we're going to make sure you never use that, because people are going to always use a new technology. And if VTTs are a technology that WotC hates, they're just trying to control it instead of stamp it out.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they're trying to do both.
Yeah, part of their problem though is that they think the OGL 1.0 is the problem.
Well, they just think it's too flexible and allows people to take all their stuff and use it.
And the simple of it is that them getting rid of that, while it might cut back on people using their stuff, it's not going to make them profit anymore. Yeah, because you've already pissed off a lot of people. You've already lost, millions upon millions every month just by even talking about touching it. And if they do pull it, and then they're going to try to take over the VTT space. The VTT space, it's dynamic, it's young. Like if you can't control this, no matter how much they try. There are things like Discord out there. People could play over fucking Facebook. They can play over any streaming app out there.
My first online video game, or my first online D&D session through Tomb of Annihilation was over Discord and Discord alone. And then I discovered Foundry.
Yeah, I run a campaign where some players were in Connecticut and some players are here by using Skype on a tablet showing the board and the Xbox Live camera so we could talk.
Yeah, I played in it was a live game, but we had one player who lived in Boston. This was in 2002, 2003, and he just had a laptop with a camera on it. That was it. He just, sat there at the laptop. All the rest of us were physically there playing. Like, you just can't stop people playing like that.
And that's the thing, is that like they want to have all these cool tile sets and customizations and figures and animations and stuff like that. That's great. That's 100% make that the best it is. Make me want to go to your site instead of Hero Forge to make my miniatures. Make me want to go to your site and use your VTT because you have really cool spell animations and your figures move and attack people. Make me want to use your VTT over DM Hub, over Foundry, over using Hero Forge for making minis. Make it better because you have the money to make it better over these guys.
Yeah, it's this weird notion that they can control the space, and all they have to do to make more money is just make better stuff.
Yeah, and that's really the weird thing that really bugs me is like I spent a lot of money in D&D. I spent a lot of money in 4th edition. I spent a lot of money in 5th edition. I just last week, 2 weeks ago, spent $400 on a goddamn Terras mini. All right? One that I'll probably never use, and it's going to sit on my shelf and collect dust. So you're telling me that I can pay $5, maybe $10 for the Terras miniature that's animated in your VTT, and it'll pick up models and bite their heads off and smash their bodies down? I will pay you that money.
Yeah.
I will pay you that money. If you make it better than anything else out there, I will pay you because I bought tile sets. I've bought figures. I've bought custom figures. I've bought cool spell animation, spell effect cards. I've bought all the peripherals, and all you're doing is just making those peripherals digital tools, and that's great. Do that. I will buy it. But if you're going to try to control the space and basically tell me that I can't use a spell animation, try to tell DM Hub that the way he launches his magic missiles in his builder, the way that he has tile sets in his builder that he developed by himself, that he gives away for free for everybody to use, is now illegal, and you're going to sue him over it? No, fuck off. I won't use your shit.
Yep. And you are not the only one. There are a lot of people like that. I absolutely am one of those people. That being said, I was leaving before any of this debacle simply because D&D was not making the best stuff. Their product is inferior. It has been for quite a while.
So this is the last comment I'll read from the video. And again, you can go to our Discord and you can watch the whole video yourself. It says that they know you can't simply sell more books to grow D&D, and they aren't able to monetize a good portion of their IP under the current OGL. The nature of D&D makes it far more complicated than Magic to translate into a digital experience. So they acquired D&D Beyond as a stepping stone into their digital D&D strategy. What Wizards wants is a recurring subscription-based revenue stream from both DMs and players, combined with a free-to-play systems like cosmetic and season passes and a virtual tabletop to create enough tiers such that even the lowest tier for their digital products is a net increase in revenue across most of their players. You know what? That is fine.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. If you want to do all that and make season passes and throw that out there and you have your season pass virtual VTT system, go at it. Good luck to you. I love playing Overwatch with my group of friends that I play Overwatch with.
You hate season pass. Yep.
I hate Overwatch 2. I hate all the changes they made to it. I hate Mercy. I hate the season pass because they took a game that I paid $150 for 6 years ago, and now you're making me pay, was it $10 a month every 4 months to continue to play.
I bought it when it first came out and I haven't paid a cent since then. So
right, but we also paid the $60 for the first 2 season passes.
No, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so.
But you're not required to have that season pass. This next season, I'm not going to pay anything either.
Right, but it's always a small stepping stone. Okay, so so now if you don't buy the season pass, the next character that comes out with the next season pass, you're not going to get at the start. You're going to have to wait until you're level 55.
Whatever. That takes like 3 weeks, and I don't care.
That's irritating to a lot of people. It's irritating to me. I can't play new content. It's irritating to a lot of people. So they pay for the season pass. So they're going to start locking content behind that season pass. You want that Terrask? Well, if you buy the season pass, you can get the Terrask. He's over there, but the season pass is $30. Or you can just buy the Terrask by itself for $50. You know, and now you're paying $50 for the miniature or the animations and whatnot. It's just
Yeah,
I am
like
all for them.
it's
I'm all
nickel
for
and
them
diming.
saying, yeah, I'm all for them saying that you can't use our art in your VTT. You can't use our spell animations in your VTT. But to say you can't use D&D art and you can't use spell animations in a VTT period, that's overreaching and overstepping.
The attempt to tell people they can't use spell animations, good luck ever getting that through. Legally, that's just a lawsuit they have lost.
Yeah.
And I
So-
think I disagree with one of the things that they said. They said that they can't. Their motto is they can't. Putting out more books is not going to grow. I think they can put out more books, but they have to be. The quality has to go up.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean that's another thing too. Is the quality of 5e has been low. Not the adventures. I think the adventures are fine. They're very good starter adventures, and they're written by very good people. But they don't think that what they see is they see a DM buying most of the books, okay, and not the table. And at most, the players are only going to buy the source books that matter to them. So that's why I started putting in like a chapter of source material in every single adventure book. That way, you have to buy that book to have that source. So, aha, we got you. And not without realizing that, no, the DM's just going to buy the one source and just hand it to you. That's why they also moved to the Spelljammer box set. That way, the player has to buy that whole source book and the two other books, and probably never use the two other books. He's just a player because he just wants the source book and be done with it. But then also not realizing that everyone just moved to D&D Beyond because that's where they can get all the stuff that they want anyways.
They're right and they're wrong. Like they're never going to reach their $500 million by 2028 by releasing books alone.
Yeah,
That
that's true.
That is absolutely true. You can still grow your profit, however, by releasing more quality books throughout the course of the year, because they're on this 4-a-year thing. They've been doing that for quite a while now. And usually 2 of the books are adventures. One of the books is a compilation adventures, like a Candlekeep mysteries and shit. And then one book is a source book. And at least myself and the other DMs that I know within my community, none of us run anything from those adventures for the most part.
Yeah.
I bought one adventure book. That's it. I bought one compilation book. That's it. One of the other DMs in my play group has not bought any of them. And because we don't utilize those, but every single source book that's released, if it's good, we will buy it.
Yeah.
Like Spelljammer was garbage, we didn't touch it. Dragonlance was garbage, we didn't touch it. But if they had been good and useful, we would have bought them. Every one of them that has more archetypes and subclasses, prestige classes, more feats, we buy those because those are actually useful to us.
Okay, well, Jay, your group, would you, if D&D came out with the adventures being, I know you guys said the adventures are good, but like higher quality, bunches of lore and other things into them.
Adventures, the adventures do me no good. I don't care if they're releasing them as the $20 packs. I think they could make a lot of money doing it that way, but they're not useful to me or my play group.
Yeah. So I think the way they were handling adventures in 4th edition was the best way to handle adventures, where they came out with a kind of like a Trapper Keeper folder. And on one side was like the DM description that he needed to know and a bunch of maps that matched the adventure. On the other side was the actual adventure. And they had like 4 of those per tier.
Yep.
Okay. And then the tiers went up to 30 with 4th edition. So, you had all this vast like material to go through, and you didn't have to play through all of them, but you had to play through like 2 or 3 of them, and I bought them and they were great. And I enjoyed that. They came out quite frequently, and they kind of like one of the things that they said they're going to do with the digital thing with the tiers for D&D Beyond is release more monthly adventure content. That's good. That's a really good change.
Yes.
So like putting out more content is great. having it be only digital, that's going to be
You're missing
suspect.
you're missing a large portion of your player base if you do that.
But I understand them wanting to move more to digital. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people that are younger than me and younger than you, and obviously younger than Jay because he's the oldest here.
Yep.
Would probably use the PDFs and the digital side more. And I'll be honest, when I'm working on my Waterdeep stuff, I'm using my 3 monitors and all the digital stuff. I just am. I'm not opening source books. But however, when I'm researching a topic, I pull up my source books. I'm the guy that's buying both the source book, I'm buying both the books physically and digitally, and using them both. Because some days I want to sit in my living room and just read the book.
Well, you
Some days I want to sit
also
here.
run online and you do run in person.
Yeah, but technical writer. My entire life is producing stuff digitally.
Yeah, but I understand, but having those books that your players can look through is also useful because it is the DMs that buy all the books.
Yeah, but like when I was writing the Tomb of Refurbishment, I pulled out my 4th edition book because while I could possibly find a 4th edition book on the internet, sailing the high seas,
Right, it's easier to just have
I got the book right there.
Yeah.
I can pull it out, look at it. So the idea that they call it treasured resources, quote unquote. That's what they want to turn books into treasured resources where they're still there, but it's going to be harder for you to buy them. You're going to have to buy them probably through Amazon now only.
Yeah, why can't they go to like a print on demand system?
They have
they have that through DM's Guild.
Yeah.
I bought the Spelljammer book.
Yeah, the second edition Spelljammer book.
I bought that through DM's Guild. I got it sitting here literally to my left, and I use it all the time. And while it's not the original printing, and it has some major problems with the printing, like the map, for example, they just printed it on the pages in the book.
Yeah.
So I have this giant map of the Rock of Ball that's like split up along different pages, both back and front. So it doesn't matter at all. I can never use that. And it's like 50 pages of just dumb scanned material.
Fortunately, that you can just look online and get it and print it if you need it.
So like, I can still do that. I can get any 1st edition, 2nd edition book through this print on demand service. So I think they're going to move towards that because I think that they don't see any money in putting books in a local gaming store.
I think they're going to, if they want to continue to grow, people need to see those.
I agree with you. I also think they need to continue Adventures League.
Yeah, like
it's not that.
It's just advertising, whether people are buying it or not. Like I understand everything is digital now, but people get into D&D most of the time for the first time in person. Like that most likely is the case. They may quickly move to doing it online, but those first few sessions, it's helpful to have somebody there who understands the game, who's done it before.
So, like, I can see like the Spelljammer way of producing the books and that box set to be a good marketing strategy, but like that, you look at the box set, it takes up like 3 inches on my bookshelf, where it really has the same content as Tasha's. I'd rather have it the same size as Tasha's. I don't need the whole big shebang. I don't have a problem with handing over my book so they can look up the stats for a GIF, and have the adventure be a part of that as well too. Like, that wasn't an issue. That was silly that was the reason why they produced Spelljammer that way. But this shift to digital is going to happen no matter what. They can't get rid of books. They can try, and I know a lot of people hate books, and Barnes and Nobles is dead, and every other bookstore in the world is dead, and I get that.
Here.
But the local gaming store is still a place where nerds get there and congregate, and they buy Pokemon cards and Magic cards, and you have that space there. Every time I play Adventures League, I guarantee you that someone is buying a miniature because they forgot their miniature at home, or buying dice. So Wizards need to continue to monopolize, or to not monopolize, but continue to monetize that aspect of it. Keep releasing miniatures. Have the premium miniatures, have the single miniatures. Keep putting out miniatures, for Christ's sake. Don't stop that and just move straight to the VTT. Develop the VTT. Make it open and accessible for everybody. Make me want to buy the Dragon's Breath animation for my Dragonborn when I play them. I'll give you $3 for that. You know? Because I spent,
it'd be $7.
well, I spent $3 on my little Dragon's Breath like little map thingy that I never use ever. So it's there as an opportunity. Just if you're going to kill if you're going to basically shoot the golden goose, which is us, the players, to get there, you're not going to get any eggs from us anymore.
Yeah. Yep.
Quack.
So
Honk.
That's quite a rant that took an hour.
All right, really did take an hour. Jesus. All
Yep.
right, for the rest of the rest of this, moving off of the OGL and all that. Jay, you're moving to Pathfinder.
I am.
Bruce, you corrupted my best D&D friend into Pathfinder. How dare you?
I was probably going there anyway. Let's be real. Him sending me that book solidified it, though. So last night, over the past couple of days, I've started actually sitting down with some of my players and making Pathfinder 2e characters, physically in person with the book, not online. And let me say, it is the smoothest goddamn character creation I have ever used. Like,
that's good.
It is more simple to make 2e Pathfinder characters than it is 5e D&D characters. And that's saying something.
Yeah,
Because
it is.
because 5e is real fucking simple. But it's just the way the books are laid out. It's fucking perfection, man. You go to so we made a barbarian last night, me and Muffin did. And you just go to the class page, the first page, and it tells you everything you're going to get. It tells you what you're proficient in. It tells you what stat bonuses you're getting. It's all just right there in a sidebar. And you just fill that shit out on the character sheet. And then you do the same thing for your ancestry, and you do the same thing for your backgrounds. And then you buy equipment and pick spells, and you're fucking done.
That's cool.
Like me and Muffin, and he'd never touched the system before, but we made a barbarian in like 20 minutes last night.
Yeah, that was the biggest problem with 4th edition. Like, it would literally take 3 hours to go through with the builder to make a character of like level 2.
Yeah, I mean, I still have all the feats that I was talking about, but everything is right there. You know, when I had to pick feats, when Muffin was picking feats for his barbarian class, because he started with 2 feats at first level because of the thing that he chose for barbarian, and it was just you turn the page. We flipped like 2 pages. There's all the level 1 feats. All I had to do is read them and pick them.
Now, is that level 1 feats repeated, or is it just specific repeated for every class, or is it specific to the barbarians?
Most classes will start with a feat at first level.
No, I meant that 1 page you flipped over.
Oh no, all of them.
So it's reprinted all the time, every time for each class.
Well, like Barbarian has their first level feats that any feats they could take at first level right there, and then Bard has their page of feats that they could take and so forth.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's specific to.
Yeah, there are general feats. There is a page a little further back past the classes for general feats, but you don't get those till 3rd or 4th level.
Okay.
For the most part, I won't say that nobody will start with a general feat. You know, there's a lot of classes and stuff, but I've made 3 characters and none of them have started with a general feat yet.
Okay.
It's all just class specific.
Like, that's one thing that I've noticed a lot of books from a design standpoint. They don't like duplicating. Every page costs money. You know, every page used is money out of our pocketbooks. You know, those hungry execs. You know, so you have to cut everything down. Use thicker cardstock, make the book thicker. So if they were repeating things, I'd be quite surprised by that. But what you said makes sense.
Yeah, well, like it's just laid out. The design is really good. Bruce, you have anything to add into this?
No, we've said it a few times. Yeah, the character design is quick and easy, but I'm just curious. Did you make a barbarian as well with Muffin?
No, he was like I sat down there with him to walk him through it.
I just think next time you do it with Muffin. Both of you decide what you're going to make and see how similar you guys get.
Oh yeah,
If
it would be very easy to make very different characters at first level. If I made a barbarian, mine would have been very different from his. First off, he picked a Tengu as his race. I wouldn't have done that. I would have gone something else, which means, most of the races have variants of the race. So, like, just thinking dwarf, you got your hill dwarf, your rock dwarf, your mountain dwarf, etc. All the races have stuff like that. So, at that point, you've already got two variances in them. The feats that I would pick probably would have been different. Uh, so, yeah, it would have been a different style of barbarian.
I mean, and that is very cool because that is hard to do in 5e because it's been so over analyzed and used, and like these are the feats you use. Like you never find a barbarian choosing actor, you know.
Right.
So
Now, let's be fair. There are so many feats in Pathfinder. Not all of them are good. There's a lot of them that will never get used unless you're in some role play heavy game. But I like that they are there. If people want them, they've got access to them. So. But yeah, I'm very, very happy with how character creation went with that. So
now I corrupted Jay. Did Waples? Did you tell Jay that I just sent you a corruption?
he sent me Monster of the Week, which is a system that I was heavily instructed to try out from the previous Shadowmoor owner, Kevin Hardy.
Mr. Kevin.
Yeah, he's been on our podcast a long time ago, and I'm definitely going to check it out. I'm definitely want to do that. And I've been sitting here thinking, it's like if I was to move off of 5e, what would I want to move to? And I think like the next system that I would want to play a game in would have to be Call of Cthulhu, because I just want to run a Cthulhian game, and then that's for
which
no
I
other.
love. Yeah, I love Call of Cthulhu. I love the system for Call of
Yeah.
Cthulhu.
But I think overall, the Call of Cthulhu is a D100 percentile based system. And I've played for it a little bit, and I enjoyed it. It was very narrative based, and I think for me, that's what I want to get to with my next big game that I want to jump into.
Yeah,
And so
let's talk about this a little bit, because we spent a lot of time last week bitching about Pathfinder and the crunchiness of it and so forth.
yes,
And the simple of it is, every game player or role player is a different person, and we
hmm
all have things that we prefer. There are
yeah,
two types of systems when it comes to role playing games. There's strategy driven and there's narrative driven. And
yeah,
neither one is wrong, neither one is right. It's just what your preference is. And there are levels to this. If D&D, if 5th edition D&D is like the middle of the thing, it's the center of the road. Slightly to the left or right of it for crunchiness would be Pathfinder. And then you can you can go way beyond that. You can start hitting into Rollmaster or Hackmaster, things where your charts have charts for the charts of their charts.
And speaking of, for just real quick, for Hackmaster, if you go to the Hackmaster website right now, you can get their basic rules plus for $1. You can get the
Yeah.
basic rules for free, but the basic rules plus has a bunch of other stuff and an adventure for $1.
And
So
honestly, you should do
shout out
that
to
and
them.
just read through it anyway, because Hackmaster's fucking awesome. And
Give them $1.
Jolly Blackburn, I love you. Keep doing what you do.
And
Uh,
the D team from Kinzerco.
Yeah, and all of Kenzerco. I love those guys. And then the narrative driven ones. Call of Cthulhu, the system is not really narrative driven because it is kind of a crunchy system. It's percentile based with all the other dice involved into it.
Yeah.
But it is more of the design of the game, at least, is more heavy role play, less combat. Because if you're getting in combat in Cthulhu, you're probably already dead.
Yeah.
Uh,
By combat, I would call it tactical because that's kind of what I associate combat games with. Like
yeah, but
D&D is a very tactical combat game,
yeah, but with Call of Cthulhu, at least the versions I've played it, you don't usually have minis. There's no 5 foot
Right.
movements. There's no squares. It's a lot of it is sort of theater of the mind, and
Yeah.
that I would put it in the narrative space. You've got all the White Wolf games, which are heavily narrative driven, and then if you really want to get down to it, like you can go completely diceless. I know Jason Morningstar, he released a game years ago called Fiasco that I played a couple of times that has a D6 that you roll twice during the whole game. And other than that, it's just role play and you're just coming up with a scenario.
Yeah.
And I also have the idea that I want to do here pretty soon of running a story where we just play Jenga
Yeah.
for dice rolls. And
Yeah.
I was talking to a couple of my players of this last night. And the idea is just to run them through it. And if you have to make a decision or dice roll, and I'm unsure of how the thing will come out, you play Jenga. And sooner or later, somebody's going to get fucked on that roll.
So, an old game that's no longer in development now, but kind of is, was a Star Wars Force and Destiny system, which I mentioned quite a few times.
Yep.
That was a very narrative-driven system that you would build a pool of dice with their specific dice, which was like success or failures, and they had advantage and disadvantage on like a D12, D10, D8, and whatnot. And you kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to hit you with a lightsaber. That's 4 D12s and 1 D8. And I'm going to try to hit you, who's just a stormtrooper. So you have your 2 base challenge dice, your 2 D8 base challenge dice, and you're wearing stormtrooper armor, which adds a D8 to that. So in my 4 D12s and a D8, I had to get more successes than your
See,
3 D8.
that doesn't sound narrative driven whatsoever, though.
So what would happen is that you would have like your things. Well, lightsabers are just the lightsabers in Star Wars are all overpowered. So like you would then roll, okay, and they would kind of like roll their defense, and the lightsaber versus a stormtrooper, he's just dead. So like if you move down to a blaster, now you're looking at like the 3d8s versus your probably like 2d8s, and this is where you can kind of get a little better. So like if you would have waited a turn and used one of your minor actions to aim, well, now I'm going to give you a bonus d6 to your little pile. And you say you roll every again, and there's no successes and no failures, and it's just straight even, but you have some advantage and you have more advantage and disadvantage. Then there's certain things you can do with that, and it's all up to the DM to kind of like describe what happened in that attack and defense, and then kind of like readjust the situation. But it was a very good blend, I think, of narrative and tactical mini-based combat. I really did enjoy it quite a bit. It was a lot of fun. Fantasy Flight does still have that system going right now with their own space variant of the game. That's no longer Star Wars. They lost that license. But Star Wars Force and Destiny was super fun because you're really just telling a story and like you're rolling the dice to see what the outcome of that happened was. Like you said, I would say like, okay, this is something that actually happened.
So it's okay. Hang on, I think I follow. So it's not
Yeah.
a attack every round. It's you roll the
No.
dice, win or lose. Then the DM tells you how it played out.
Yeah. So
Okay.
like, one thing that we did is we were in the middle of Order 66, but our players didn't know it. We were in a Jedi training academy on some planet, and the Sith Lord, a Sith Inquisitor, showed up, and with the stormtroopers and started attacking us, and so we ran away. We closed the blast doors behind us, and they're trying to cut their way through. So they're pushing through. He's pushing through his lightsaber through the blast doors, and he makes a hole. Okay. So one of the players is like, okay, well, I'm gonna take this thermal detonator. I want to just turn on, shove it through the hole, and roll it on the other side of the door.
Mhm.
And thermal detonators are long again. You thought lightsabers are overpowered. Thermal detonators are overpowered.
Yep.
So, he had him roll his couple d8s with an advantage because we were taking them surprise by attacking them back. And he got like straight success on all his stuff. And versus the defenses of everybody on the other side, or the negative effects that the DM wanted to put there for that dice pool, we won that engagement, essentially.
Yeah.
And we pushed the thermal detonator through. It went off. It really hurt the Sith Lord. It hurt all the stormtroopers. And then we were able to go in there and fight the Sith Lord, which was kind of like everyone make their attack against his, his thing. And we killed the big bad end guy. Our first encounter.
Yeah.
Essentially, because we detonated a thermal detonator at his
Right.
feet.
Yeah, you got
So-
creative with it. The DM allowed it, and that's what that's what narrative-driven things tend
Yeah.
to be.
So
like D&D is very just this is what you can do. These are the rules. They are hard.
Well,
They're kind of written in stone. And
but I try to be very narrative with what I what players to do. But I'll let the die roll kind of do it. The D20 is great, but it is very simple.
Yep.
I was talking to our good friend Jeff Ludwig about this, and he actually turned me on to a system called Ironsworn, which has both a fantasy version and Starbound, which is their space version. And everything there is based off an action roll, which is you roll a d6 and 2d10s at the same time. Okay?
Mhm.
And if your d6 plus your stats and your additions, they can just call them adds, you get a number. So let's say you roll a 3 and you have a 2 stat and a 1 add, you get a 6 on that value. So then the 2 d10s, you roll both of those, they count separately. And let's say one rolls a 4 and one rolls an 8. So what that means is your 6 beats the 4 but doesn't beat the 8. So
Okay.
it's a success, but it's a weak success. If you beat both of them, it's a strong success, and
Okay.
if you
That's easy,
are lower
yeah.
than both of them, it's a miss. So it's just straight that. And there's if you match the 2d10s, it's called a match, and it basically lets the DM add a twist to the scenario on a table of twist or whatever they want to do. And then progress is based on you have your progress bar, and let's say it's a 10 block bar, and let's say you need to do a troublesome task. Well, you got to fill out all 10 blocks, but every time you get success in this task, you fill in 3 of those blocks. But if it's like an epic quest you're on, you have your 10 blocks, but you only fill in 1 at a time. So that's
Okay.
how they kind of measure.
You need a lot more successes.
Yeah, you need a lot more successes. But you still have your standard basic strength, con, agility, and all
Okay.
that. I had it here a second ago.
It's kind of White Wolf-esque. Like with White Wolf, you'll have a target number, and you'll roll depending. Say you have you're rolling guns, so you'll roll whatever your dex was plus your gun stat. So say 6d10, and if the target number might be 5, and you might need 3 successes to hit the target. So hitting those numbers succeeds, not hitting them fails.
They also have something called momentum, which is kind of like the same thing in Call of Cthulhu. I can't remember what it was, where you could push a modifier up a little bit if you were so close. I think it was luck. They have something called momentum, which depending on the character and your circumstance, it can be negative to positive, and the DM can use it, the negative stuff, and you can use the positive side of it. And it kind of goes back and forth and resets on our rest. Their stats are edge, heart, iron, shadow, and wits, and you can figure it out from there.
Okay.
But it looks like a really cute system. The character sheet's pretty simple. You still get experience and level up, and there's abilities and stuff like that, and you get cool items that add effects and stuff like that. So it looks like a very interesting system.
Yeah, I'm glad you're.
very
I'm
narrative-based.
glad you're actually looking at other systems, because while D&D is fine and all, there's so much more out there, and run your D&D games, but look at other systems, and maybe at some point run some other ones of those too. Like I've run dozens of systems over the course of the years, and I feel like I've kind of gotten lazy only running D&D 5e. I'm ready to branch out and start doing some other stuff again.
So all the rule books for the Ironsworn RPG, ironsworn.com, sorry, ironswornrpg.com, is all free. Absolutely free. It's 100% free system. The
Wow.
adventures, everything is 100% free. Go out and do it. If you want to buy the books, buy the books. But it's all out there for free. And the cool part is, while the images that they have for the book are all stock images from iStock and Shutterstock and whatnot, all the images they picked are like people from LARPs. So
Okay, that's
they're
what it
all
is.
real people.
Yeah, I'm looking at the books. I'm like, man, this looks like fucking fantasy romance novels or something that you would find.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of what I want to go for because I like the back and forth. I like the crunchy tacticalness of combat, but I find as me as a DM, all I'm doing is just adding a lot of flair to what the players are doing. And sometimes the players will be like, "All right, you stabbed him, you killed him. So tell me how you stab him." They're like, "Oh, I stab him."
Yeah,
You know,
you get the Matt
See,
Mercer attempt, and then they don't give you anything. Sorry, what were you saying,
right.
Bruce?
see, that's because on my table I roll a hit location die. If you don't tell me, I roll it, and that way I can give the flair for what they did.
Yeah.
That's a good way to do it. Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, honestly, you could do that every time they kill something. Just roll a hit location. My only issue with that is if you're fighting a Hydra, you would need a whole lot of heads.
Yeah, but it helps though. It helps spawn my players to. I do it for regular hits too, not just the killing hits. Because then if they fumble on it, and I'll have, oh, okay, was that your right hand that you're doing, or it'll help me give the creative flair for to the
Yep.
fumbles or the crits and
Yeah.
different things.
I tend to find myself on the spur of the moment narrating Scruffy's attacks, especially the big ones that hit hard. As like, oh yeah, you take your maul and you smash it over their head. He's killed more people via head injury than I think any other person in human history because I can't think of anything else that hits somebody with the maul because like none of them have shields he's killing. They're all just like, I'm just standing over the head. Like, so you're a giant maul. You're swinging it over your head. Yeah, I guess you could
Yeah.
sweep the leg and crush the chest, but it's not cool like a great sword. It's a maul.
There's
So
only so many ways you can kill somebody in the first place.
you're gonna Gallagher them every single time, no matter what. Just start a Gallagher counter, and just that's what it is. You're already at 8.
Yeah, he actually you just start handing him watermelon stickers for everyone he kills.
Add that to the stream. Just little watermelon stickers across his portrait. This is my card of watermelons.
Yep. Yeah, that needs to be a thing. Make that happen.
That's kind of like when a PC dies on my table, they give me a sticker with the way they died, like an obit. Doesn't matter
Yeah.
how stupid too. Like if they drown, because one guy wrote that he blamed the other player. He told me to go down the left hallway. That resulted in my death.
Yeah. I honestly, if I would have taken, I wanted to take character sheets when I first started AL at Synergy and like hang up like the wall of dead players. If I would have actually done that and kept up with it, I'd just have an entire wall now just covered in dead player character sheets.
Yes, you would. The entire wall of Synergy would just be full of character sheets at this point.
I only
Fucking-
killed one player last week.
Oh, like
But then you should if you're going to do that, you should do the opposite for the PCs that make it. Take their picture and put up there. They're alive.
no, yeah.
I'll tell you what, Bruce. The second that a PC actually complete a full adventure, I will take a picture of them and I'll make sure that everyone knows that they completed this adventure and survived. Because right now, nothing has happened like that.
But if they can get, they know that they have a goal they can reach. Maybe you'll get that.
I survived. I survived a Christopher Waples adventure, and all I got was this lousy T-shirt.
To be fair,
Polaroid.
to be fair, the first adventure was Baldur's Gate, and COVID stopped that.
Yeah.
The next big adventure was Frost Maiden,
Which
and
nobody survives.
nobody survived. Then I did a couple like one-off things. Oh yeah, then I went to when I did Baldur's Gate again, but I did the D&D AL Baldur's Gate, and they died, so they're out. The Spelljammer one is going pretty well. They're working towards it, but unfortunately with the Spelljammer group, because of the holidays and just like when it came out and everything, the group is very much mishmash and not the same people over and over and over again. So that one probably doesn't count. Like, whereas the other ones had like a steady stream of like these 4 players always. So we'll see. I'll still give them props if they make it to the end of Spelljammer. Being given the decision they're making, they're not going to be successful. But abandoning 8 civilians to giant slug monsters so you can survive, and 2 players so you can survive is not conducive to a well functioning party and surviving the terrors of the astral sea.
Yep. Well, I don't really have much more I think I need to talk about. Anybody got more
I
stuff to
ranted.
add?
I'm done. I'm
Nope,
tired.
I'm good too.
Yeah, like there's more I could talk about, but we spent an hour and 10 minutes on bitching about WotC.
Next
Blame-
Sunday.
Blame WotC.
Yep, blame WotC. Go see the D&D movie, however, please.
Think about it
Yeah.
heavily before you decide to support companies that don't want to support you.
That is true. There are a number of companies I've boycotted. I don't care if it doesn't work. Yeah, I feel better about it. So, WotC sucks.
Yeah, I mean, my quick last note on that is like the people who made the movie didn't do anything wrong. They're great people. Chris Pine's fantastic. Michelle Rodriguez is fantastic. The writers, all them people, that movie is on point and the best D&D movie that will ever be D&D movies.
We
Up
haven't
until
even
this
seen
point-
it yet.
Yeah, and I haven't even seen it yet. I can tell just from the trailer that they actually like what they did and put a lot of love and care into that. So you got to weigh that upon how much you hate Hasbro.
I hate Hasbro, but whatever they do is not going to affect me at this point. So,
Yeah, I'm not gonna hate people that to go see it. I'm not gonna hate people that don't, and I'm still on the fence. Am I gonna get AL and my AL group and Synergy as a giant group together to go see the movie? No. I still have to decide myself.
that's fair. Yeah.
So we'll see.
I don't know if I don't normally go to the movies with my other group, players and DMs anyway. So we'll see. I might not. Don't know yet.
All right. All right.
Well,
Bye, everybody.
Yep.
Bye bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye, Bruce. Bye, Chris. Bye, Craig.